December 9, 1945 began quietly in occupied Germany, the kind of calm morning that suggested history had finally slowed down after years of chaos. The war had been over for 7 months, the guns were silent, and the future seemed already written. A senior American general sat in the back seat of a large luxury sedan, riding through the countryside for what was supposed to be a routine trip. He was not heading to the front or inspecting troops, but going on a simple outing, relaxed, thinking about home. The following day he was scheduled to leave Europe and return to the United States. In his mind, the next chapter of life was already unfolding. He planned to write, to speak openly, to explain decisions made behind closed doors at the end of the war. He believed grave mistakes had been committed, errors that reshaped Eastern Europe and handed entire nations into foreign control. He intended to tell that story himself. But the future he imagined would never arrive. Within minutes, an ordinary drive on a quiet road would turn into the final journey of his life, setting off a chain of unanswered questions that would echo for decades. At exactly 11:45 in the morning, on a narrow industrial road near Mannheim, the unexpected happened. The car was moving at a modest speed, nothing reckless, nothing urgent. Suddenly, a heavy military vehicle swerved sharply across the road and cut directly into the sedan's path. There was no time to brake, no space to escape. The impact was violent but brief. Metal folded, glass shattered, and in a single moment the calm morning was destroyed. Inside the car, the force threw the rear passenger forward, slamming his head against the rigid divider between the seats. The injury was catastrophic. The driver escaped without a scratch. The front passenger was shaken but unharmed. Even the men in the military vehicle walked away. Only the man seated in the back suffered devastating damage. Within seconds he knew the truth of his condition. He could not move. He could not feel his hands. He understood immediately that something irreversible had happened. For a man who had survived years of combat, this sudden, quiet roadside crash would prove more dangerous than any battlefield. From the very beginning, details surrounding the accident raised quiet but troubling questions. The injured man was the only one seriously hurt, despite sitting farthest from the point of impact. Minutes after the collision, senior officers arrived at the scene with unusual speed. The road was isolated, the morning uneventful, yet high-ranking personnel appeared almost immediately, as if they had been expecting something to happen. Later, investigators would search for the official accident report, only to discover it had vanished. The document that should have existed simply did not. When attempts were made years later to retrieve it, officials were told no such report could be found. Even more curious was the fate of the driver of the military vehicle. He was quickly removed from the area, reportedly sent abroad for his own safety, briefly returned for a single interview, and then disappeared entirely. His personnel records vanished along with him. No clear explanation was ever provided. These inconsistencies, small on their own, would later form the foundation of much larger doubts. Instead of being taken to the nearest medical facility, the injured general was transported more than 12 kilometers to a military hospital in Heidelberg. The decision made little sense. Time mattered, yet a longer route was chosen without explanation. At the hospital, doctors confirmed the severity of the injuries. Multiple cervical vertebrae were shattered. The spinal cord was damaged beyond repair. Paralysis extended from the neck downward. Despite this, his condition stabilized. He remained conscious, alert, even joking with visitors. His wife rushed from America to be at his side, reading to him daily and offering constant support. Doctors cautiously believed he might survive, though he would never walk again. For days, there was no immediate sign of decline. Everything suggested that while his life had changed forever, it was not yet ending. Then, without warning, the situation shifted. On December 21st, the patient reportedly told those around him that he felt his end was near. Hours later, while his wife was briefly away, his heart stopped. The official cause of death was listed as a pulmonary embolism, a known but not inevitable complication for paralyzed patients. The explanation was medically plausible, yet unsettling in its timing. An autopsy could have clarified everything, but permission was denied. Without it, certainty vanished. What should have been a closed medical case instead became a mystery frozen in paperwork and silence. Years later, new claims emerged. A decorated veteran and former intelligence operative publicly stated that he had been approached with an offer to eliminate the general. According to his account, the order came from the highest levels, motivated by fear of what the general might reveal upon returning home. Journalists and historians followed these claims, uncovering patterns, inconsistencies, and unanswered questions. Books were written. Investigations reopened debates. None provided absolute proof, but all pointed to one conclusion. The official story left too many gaps to ignore. The life that ended in that German hospital had been anything but ordinary. For decades, this commander had been shaped by war, conflict, and an unshakable belief that history was decided by action, not caution. He had led men through chaos, transformed how modern armies moved and fought, and built a reputation that inspired loyalty among his troops and fear among his enemies. To the opposition, he was unpredictable and relentless. To his soldiers, he was a symbol of momentum and resolve. Even political leaders recognized that his voice carried weight far beyond the battlefield. That influence did not disappear when the war ended. In fact, it may have become more dangerous. In the months following victory, he spoke openly about disagreements, about political compromises, and about what he believed were disastrous decisions made behind closed doors. He was not a man inclined towards silence, especially when he felt history was being rewritten in ways that betrayed those who had fought and died. 7 months after the greatest victory of his career, he was gone. Not killed in combat, not struck down by enemy fire, but lost on a quiet road and finished in a hospital room far from home. The contrast was stark and unsettling. Over time, witnesses faded away, documents vanished, and official explanations hardened into routine statements repeated without scrutiny. Yet doubts never fully disappeared. Each missing report, each unexplained decision, each vanished individual added weight to the suspicion that the full story had never been told. Some believed the truth was simply lost to time, buried beneath bureaucracy and coincidence. Others believed it was deliberately erased. What remains today is not proof, but absence. An absence of clarity. An absence of answers. And the enduring sense that power often fears those who refuse to stay quiet once the fighting ends. History remembers victories and defeats, but it rarely preserves the moments when truth becomes inconvenient. In this case, silence may be the final chapter. Whether his death was the result of chance or design may never be known, but the questions surrounding it continue to echo, reminding us that sometimes the most dangerous thing a person can do is survive a war and speak freely afterward. If you've stayed with me until the end, here is my honest view. I don't claim to know for certain whether this was murder or a tragic accident. But there are simply too many gaps, too many missing pieces, and too much silence surrounding the final days of this general's life to accept the official version without questions. When reports disappear, witnesses vanish, and explanations are reduced to convenient conclusions, doubt becomes unavoidable. History is not only written by victors, it is shaped by what is allowed to be remembered and what is quietly pushed aside. In this story, the unanswered questions are as powerful as any confirmed fact. If stories like this make you think, if they push you to question what you were told and look deeper into history, then support the channel. Hit the like button, subscribe, and and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Leave a comment below and tell me what you think. Was this truly an accident, or was something more happening behind the scenes? I read every comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.